What on earth is going on with Rocket Lab stock? I mean, seriously, they just had a successful launch and then the stock tanks. Can you believe it? It's ridiculous, I know. So a lot of you are probably wondering and thinking to yourself, what is going on? Why is this happening with this company? Because a lot of you that follow this stock, and some of you may be new, but Rocket Lab is a very successful company in its own right. Take for instance, it is the #2 rocket launcher in the United States of America, just after SpaceX. So there isn't any better rocket launcher in the United States better than Rocket Lab other than SpaceX, and SpaceX is not a publicly traded company. So technically this is the #1 publicly traded rocket company that you can buy. So what gives? So my thoughts on this are a few things could be impacting the stock price, okay? One of those, well, the launch before this past successful launch was a failure, okay? So they did have a launch mishap this year, and that did drag the stock down quite a bit. But here's the thing, it was a small mishap. It got fixed rather quickly. They've had so many prior successful launches, you know, before that little mishap, and even so, their first launch after that mishap, which just occurred like a few days ago, was a complete success. So I have a few reasons why this stock is having some issues. Why isn't it taking off? And, you know, I think that right now things have been shaky in the market. As you can see, it's not just Rocket Lab, it's a lot of companies. You know, you look at them and they inch up and then they go back down, and they inch, it's like 2 steps forward, you know, 3 steps back, and then 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. So the whole market's kind of been like that this past year. So it's not all entirely Rocket Lab's fault that this stock is, you know, fluctuating like this. Another thing is that a lot of people's cost averages, you know, their dollar cost averages for the share price is between $4 and $5 a share. And, you know, some of you might be higher, you might have bought it earlier before the market kind of took a nosedive, and that's fine, you know. But right now, I think a lot of people have either averaged down or they've gotten into it at a good price, and so it's not really gaining much traction as far as, you know, going over $5 a share right now. And I think that, you know, that's not something that should be of too much concern. I also noticed something, that whenever I leave YouTube, you know, for a period of time, whether it's from a natural disaster affecting me or just, you know, personal disaster affecting me, I always find that Rocket Lab is just so generous in that they keep their stock price pretty flat until I come back. And then usually after I come back on YouTube, you know, everybody's happy and the stock goes up. That's just what I've taken notice. But all jokes aside, reasons why I think Rocket Lab stock not taking off shouldn't be of concern to you if you are a shareholder is this. Next year, there's going to be many changes, okay? And even now this year, there's been positive changes. Rocket Lab has launched the most launches this year annually than any year prior. And that's even with that one launch failure that happened this year. Imagine they could have probably launched, you know, several more and squeezed them into the year. But the point is that even with that little mishap, they still managed to launch more rockets than ever. They created their own record for launches. Here's what's even bigger. Next year, they're planning on launching double what they did pretty much this year. They're looking at like 22 launches next year, maybe more. Maybe they'll surprise us. I don't know. But, conservatively, they're looking to launch 22 launches. That's a big deal. That doubling the launches is going to increase revenue from launch, which in turn is going to move the stock higher, because what shareholders want to see is they want to see profits coming in. They want to see increasing cash flow. And what happened is in the third quarter of this year, with their mishap and everything, their losses widened by 17% because they just couldn't launch as frequently and get that revenue in for that quarter. But that was only a little short-term hiccup. So if you're sitting here watching it, you're a big Rocket Lab fan and you're wondering, seriously, I've been watching this for like a while now and this stock's going nowhere. Next year is going to be a big year. And let me tell you what, I'm super excited for next year. We have a lot happening. Not only are they wanting to double up on their launches, we're going to have some Neutron news, okay? By the end of next year, they might even do a test launch for Neutron if all goes according to plan. So think about it. You're going to have that medium lift rocket coming out. And then once they do that, I'm sure once they get it all tested, everything's set, they're going to start signing contracts for that. They haven't really got contracts for Neutron because, they don't want to put the horse before the carriage, or whichever way you do it. They just don't want to do that. They want to make sure everything is perfect before they start taking customers for it. And I think that's a great way to go, because I think the revenues are going to surprise us from Neutron. So there's Neutron to look forward to next year. There's the doubling of launches. And then another thing is, they have mentioned they just might be doing Venus next year. So if they can do a Venus mission by the end of next year, if they could double their launch cadence, if they could get Neutron up and running, not to mention all of their space systems products that they sell, from the little Sol Aero power solar things and just the reaction wheels, basically anything that you need to go into space for satellites and stuff, they have it, they own it, they make it, they produce it, they sell it. So Rocket Lab is more than just a rocket launcher. And so even though, that past quarter, even though they missed that launch and it didn't quite go, they still have other options for revenue, which is great, because you don't want a company that's just solely reliant on one source of income, because that's like sitting on a chair with one leg, and that's just, it's not a very stable chair. So they have many legs on their company's chair. And I think that Rocket Lab is going to be phenomenal. Again, let me remind you, it is the #2 rocket launcher in the United States. The #1 rocket launcher available for you to buy on the stock market. So again, buy, hold if you already own it, do not sell it, because next year is going to be a very big year. Another reason why the stock could have not taken off is a lot of people like to, buy the hype and sell the news. Now, this past launch that Rocket Lab successfully completed, and they awoke into the moon god, because as their little mission name was, Moon God Awakens, basically. So they had a successful mission, but I think the reason why the stock plummeted by 10% the next trading day is because people were selling the news. Okay, you had people that knew Rocket Lab had been sidelined for a while and this was their first launch, and if it's successful, the stock is going to pop. Well, the stock did pop. It popped before the launch, and then it went down after the launch when people sold the news. So they're probably not long-term shareholders. They were probably just looking for a quick turn and burn, or if they are long-term, maybe they just wanted to buy it, sell the news, and then buy even more shares at a lower price. If they're really spectacular traders, people scalp and they buy even more shares. So that's a possibility. Do I think that Rocket Lab taking a nosedive in the share price means the company's in trouble or that it's a bad thing. No, I don't. I think it's still an opportunity. Like I said, 2024, next year, is going to be a very big year for Rocket Lab. So now's the time to stock up. We are already at the end of December. We're coming up around that corner. New Year's is right there. 2024 is like within the grasp. It's just a few weeks away. Can you believe it? A few weeks away. And then the big year for Rocket Lab is going to be here in just a few weeks, 2024, where all these big catalysts are going to happen. And here's another thing. You know, there's been talk that interest rates are going to go down. If interest rates go down and they don't remain high or they don't keep going up, that means the market is going to react in a positive manner, okay? Because things are always better when interest rates are low, most of the time. But the thing is that if you have lower interest rates, if you have double the launch cadence, if you have Neutron becoming available at the end of the year, if you have a Venus mission coming up, that, my friends, is a recipe for Rocket Lab to finally rocket and take off, okay? 2023, we had kind of it was still had a lot of good milestones in 2023. It's just that the market wasn't ready for it, you know? But I do think next year, coming up next year, the market's gonna be ready, and I'm really, really excited to see where Rocket Lab's share price ends up next year. I mean, this is gonna be fun to kind of like look back, you know, at this video, maybe like same time next year in December and be like, wow, look how far we've come. So, you know, let's just see what happens, and don't be discouraged by the share price. Be excited. This might be our last chance to buy low. But I'm so happy to be back. I had a little bit of a hiatus from YouTube. Personal reasons, had a lot going on, but I am finally back. Definitely plan on bringing more content to the channel for everybody. Again, I apologize. I know I was away for probably a good month or so. But I'm back, and I'm looking forward to sharing more Rocket Lab news and other stocks such as Joby, Lilium, all those fun, any aviation stocks basically. So aviation, space stocks, and investing in general. And if you all don't already follow me on X/Twitter, go ahead and hit me up. I am Stock Trek Girl. That is my handle name. So go ahead and find me on X, formerly Twitter. I would love to chat with you all and say hi. And that's kind of where I am other than YouTube. So I look forward to seeing you all. If you like what you have to see, please click the subscribe button, as it helps the YouTube algorithm and it helps to share the Rocket Lab stock message out there with other people, which in turn could help boost the stock price one day. So let's share the love, and also click the like button. All right, and until next time, invest long and prosper.